streetcar, unlimited all of them are not going to get elected. How do I know they weren't set up to win? In other words, they were to go out and campaign that they were against it, win, and vote for it. I mean, it's awful odd that they just, all of them, it's just mathematically, you have to run the numbers on this and say, what is the probability that all of them did?
What I want to know, George, what I want to run are the numbers behind the numbers, and how are they going to benefit from letting this, because there's got to be some kind of carrot to take the stick to the taxpayers like this.
It's exactly it. You know, I've told, I mean, most of the people who are for this thing don't even have a clue that they think for $180 million, they're getting all three legs put in. It's just hysterical.
That's one leg.
Yeah, they haven't figured out to $500 million, and that, you know, that 1.3 or 1.5 to 3 million is for that leg. When you put the other two in and see what that goes up to. No one's doing the math here. It's basically, we have to have a streetcar. I don't have a clue why, but we can't afford to pay the pensions to the pensioners. It doesn't make any sense.
No, go ahead.
I just think that this election was set up. I really believe that Mann and both the both PG flip-and-floppers were set up to go out and campaign against this. So when they got elected, 2 weeks later, they voted for it. It's too much of all three of them. Every one of them did it. And they stood there and strongly went up against this until it was time to vote, and they voted for it. I really think that they were planning in there to get elected so they could get the votes needed. That's just my thought.
Well, it's not a thought that I think that you share alone. Appreciate the call, George.
Extreme response to an irrational expectation.
Well, Scott, you know, the thing is, I've been $50 down guy at the casino and done exactly what the city of Cincinnati decided to do last week with the streetcar. I've been that guy. I've made that mistake. That's why I can identify and feel their pain and the city of Cincinnati's pain going through with this thing, because I know what lies ahead.
Yeah, you know, one of the comments that Joe Dieters made when he was on with Willie last week was I think largely ignored in the course of discussion of the streetcar. I followed the WCPO sound bites on the web, and the underfunded pension situation that looms out there is really the 800-pound gorilla here. It's an enormous debacle that is not a question of whether it's going to get us. It's a win, and to have completely ignored that in favor of this completely silly endeavor, I think is an act of responsibility that speaks volumes to the investors in terms of property, residential property owners and businesses that are either in Cincinnati or anticipating setting up shop here in Cincinnati. It says that these people are too stupid to tie their own shoelaces. Do not be part of this, and for me, I feel my investment here is a waste. I feel my vote was a waste. I think the three people who basically stood up and lied to us did so with full knowledge and avowal that that's exactly what they were going to do. And
well, I mean,
pitiful just doesn't say it all.
Thanks, Scott. Cincinnati is a microcosm for what's happening in the whole country with the federal government. It really is. They cannot already pay the bills and the unfunded mandates that they have in front of them, and they outline another enormous, huge amount of cash towards something that may or may not work, and I'm voting for may not. Jim in Pierce Township, hello, you're on 700 WLW.
Hey, Gary, Jeff, I just want to thank you for being the only credible voice of reason remaining at that station. I want to agree with the last caller, except it's not three people that lied. Throw Cranley in there, too. It's not just Sittenfeld. It's not just Flynn and Mann. It's Cranley, too. Just because he wooshes out and says that he won't vote either way, he won't fight him on it, he knew who the vice mayor was going to be. He had to. If he didn't get an agreement, he's stupid. These guys aren't stupid. They're liars, and they're cheats, and they're totally disingenuous. And Willie's a sellout, Sloaney's a sell out. As soon as it became obvious, Willie was throwing softballs at Cranley the other day. As soon as it became obvious that it was going to go through, then Sloaney got on board, and Willie got on board. And it's because they want to be able to call these people up instead of holding their feet to the fire and get them on the show ad nauseum for the next 4 years. That's another problem with it. These guys are on for 4 years now. They know that things are going to be forgotten. They think that voters are stupid. And it's even worse than your analogy, Gary Jeff, about throwing good money after bad money at the wheel. The fact is, they're committing, it would be like going to a loan shark in a casino and getting money you don't have, and committing that. It's worse than spending more money than you should. They're spending money they don't have.
Jim, I do have the luxury of normally only working 1 day a week. I don't have 5 days of shows that I've got to fill. So if I never have a politician on my show, it really doesn't matter to me one iota. So I will say that in defense of them, maybe not wanting to take them to task or put their feet to the fire like they ought to at all times. However, you raise a good point. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, and that is what's happened again in the city of Cincinnati. A break, more of your phone calls, and back the Monday before Christmas. Gary Jeff Walker in for Scott Sloan today on 700 WLW.
Yep. Compelled me to call in.
All right.
Because PG, I remember sitting here listening to, I never call the radio station. I like to listen to Reach. And I remember PG talking about, hey, I'm looking at this whole thing from a businessman's perspective. And I'm taking a forward view. And then he turned right back around and said, look at all the money we spent. Well, PG, that's a backward view.
Yeah.
And the businessman would look at that bucket of fish and say, it's all at self-cost. I got to figure out what to do today to make it work. And they haven't figured that out. Now, here's the funny thing, though. I just leave you with this, then I'll get off the airwaves. Nobody's looking at Portland. Portland and that big bunch of hippies put in a streetcar, and they can't make it work, and they spent gazillions, and nobody rides the thing. It's a big loss, and everybody, all the Portlanders are complaining in Portlandia. But nobody said, hey, let's look at that.
Well, I've said that all along because I know people that lived in Portland, Oregon, and saw what an abomination to the taxpayers the streetcar was there. The light rail, the mass transit system, it's so progressive and so moving forward. Trolleys were around in this country and in our cities in the 1900s. It's not a new novel idea. It's an old dog. It ain't a new trick. And old dogs eventually die. And this will choke what the forward motion was really in the city of Cincinnati off because of the money it's going to drain out of the taxpayer coffers ultimately. No matter what kind of promises are made about operating costs and the short shot projections of what the streetcar to build will cost and moving the utility lines will cost and all of the rest of that. Stephen in South Carolina, hello.
Well, not in South Carolina. In this